Hey guys! So it's Little Fit Nursery here. I have been getting a couple questions about, I actually had two people at least message me asking about the durability of air dry paints. And the reason that this question came up was because I think a lot of you guys really enjoyed seeing baby Clara, and also some of you met her in person at the doll show. So, here she is, and I know I got that question about the air dry paints because a lot of you guys have only had babies that were painted with Genesis heat set paints. Now, Genesis heat set paints are definitely much more common to find, in the Reborn world still. There is an increasing number of artists that are switching to air dry. The biggest reason being that it's just for health reasons. And that was also the reason I decided to just start off with air dry paints in my own painting, as I'm learning the art of reborning, to just go ahead and start with air dry paints because I also had the same concerns about some of the health risks with Genesis. So anyway, that's why you're seeing it becoming more common. The health risks, if you're in case you're curious, have to do with, I think, the vinyl. When you bake the vinyl, the fumes that come from that are not healthy for you to breathe. I think that's part of it, and then also the thinners that are used with the Genesis paints and maybe even the paints themselves are also not that great for you to be breathing for long periods of time. So, and not to scare anybody who uses those paints, but just I think we all need to be educated because this is extremely important. This is something that affects our health. I had heard and read, about a situation where, the Genesis paints had someone who had been using the Genesis paints, they were, kind of at risk of cancer or something to that effect. And then they were ordered to stop painting, stop reborning for a period of time. And then I guess the chemicals or things that are tested for that indicate that the person could be at risk of cancer ended up going down. So I don't want to scare anybody, but that was something that I had read, and it did freak me out, to be honest. And believe me, it would have been much easier to learn how to paint with Genesis because it is much more common. There are a lot more tutorials everywhere. Bountiful Baby sells a starter kit for painting with Genesis, and it's just a lot easier to find. Like a lot of the DVDs, a lot of the tutorials out there. The tutorial that I learned how to paint with, the Reborn A to Z course, also uses Genesis. So everybody pretty much uses that, and that's the most common. And the Genesis babies, as I think I had a video where I showed you some of the differences between the Genesis heat set paint babies and the air dry babies. One big difference, has to do with, the type of varnish or finish that's used. And so with Genesis heat set, I have found that a lot of times it's this kind of rougher matte varnish. It's more of almost has a little bit of a sandpapery feel. I will say though, it does feel extremely durable. Like you could spill something on it and it would wipe right off, and things like that. And and my caveat with my answer to this video about the durability of air dry paints is that I've only been painting with them for a short time. I also, the babies I've owned with air dry paints I've also owned for a short time. But so far so good, I guess is the short answer. I feel like, this is Clara. I've had her for a few months now. She still looks new to me. I mean, I do have a small smudge on one of her fingertips, but really I haven't noticed any issues with like the durability of her paint or anything like that, or paint coming off or chipping. I do think all reborns, especially if you own a baby for a long time, they will start to show wear and tear and age unless you just keep them pristine and you don't handle them, you keep them covered up, and you just really take care of them and essentially really do treat them like a collectible. But the reality is, a lot of us, these babies are works of art, but they are also cuddly art, huggable art. I think one of the ladies called it at the doll show. So it's natural to, for us to touch them and, hold them and pick them up. But, all of those things, I think, for whether the baby is painted with air dry or Genesis, all of those things can cause wear and tear on your doll. So it is just something to keep in mind. But one thing, and it's hard to tell on camera, but Clara and also the air dry babies that I have, and Maddie, who Melissa George also painted. And Melissa, by the way, does use air dry paints. She uses Baby FX paints. They have sort of this like softer feel to them, softer vinyl. I personally think it looks more realistic. That's just my personal opinion, and it feels so much nicer to touch that the vinyl is soft. Like I has kind of this soft, almost a velvety kind of finish. And those of you guys who met me at the doll show and had a chance to hold Clara know what I mean. So I actually kind of prefer that, and I think, but I will say that some of the ladies who do paint with Genesis heat set paints, like my friend Terry, who I met at the show, and she was in my air dry class, she uses Genesis. She is going to switch to air dry, by the way. A lot of the ladies from that show, kind of from my class coming out of that, said they were definitely going to switch over to air dry. Terry actually paints with Genesis, but she does not use that matte varnish sealer, so her babies are, do retain that kind of soft velvety smoothness. But I think the important thing is, regardless of the medium, to just expect or anticipate that somewhere down the road you may need to do some kind of a touch-up for your baby. I think it's good for all collectors to learn how to stuff and reweight their babies. So if you do get them and you have an issue, oh, by the way, one of the ladies, I won't say, but one of the ladies who had bought a Reborn, from the show, we were at the ice cream party and she was cuddling her baby and then the leg fell off. And it was like, oh my gosh. But, she's a collector. She's not an artist. And she, didn't know how to fix it. But of course, luckily we're at a doll show and, lots of her friends who were at the table also, Reborn, and someone had an extra zip tie. We were able to get that leg snapped on, no problem. But I do think it's a really excellent skill to learn. I remembered when and that also helps me to have more confidence that if, something, if something does happen, I need to fix it. Like, let's say, the zip tie gets loose, and I don't think that'll happen, guys, but, that I have a way to fix it. But back to the paints, I think the paints have held up beautifully. And you can even see with Clara, after I brought her home, I actually took it's a very gentle, it's for babies, it's by Baby Ganix, but it's kind of a face and body wipe, essentially. It's not a hand sanitizer wipe. I don't know if those chemicals would be maybe a little bit too harsh, but it's one of those face and body wipes, and I just kind of took that, and it's very important, don't rub your dolls, because you don't want to have any risk of, the paint coming off. So what I did was I just used it and just kind of blotted her with the cloth and did that. So, but I think if I'd rubbed, it probably would have been okay, but it's just something I don't really want to risk. And then also things that I've heard, like, don't leave your baby in direct sunlight for long periods of time. When I was carrying Clara around the show to my air dry class, she came with me both days to my class. And then I went out with Cher and a bunch of the other ladies out for lunch. I brought Clara with me, but I always have a blanket around her, pretty much. And when she's in my Dizon Designs bag, she also has her blanket around her, in that bag as well. So I was carrying her in my arms, and we stepped outside, and as soon as we stepped out into the sunlight, I kind of wrapped her up in the blanket and hid her face from the sun so she wouldn't be exposed to the direct sunlight. I don't know actually what it would do to the baby, truthfully, but it's just something, because I did take that one day. I took Sabrina, who's one of the babies I painted. I took her to Disneyland, and she's air dry painted, and I didn't see anything negative that happened with her being out in the sun. But granted, that was just one day. So anyway, I guess my recommendation is I would not hesitate to buy air dry a baby painted with air dry paints. One thing that you might want to ask though is one thing that is very important when using air dry acrylic paints, that I've heard, is that they need to be professional grade paints. There are, some student grade air dry paints that you can buy in, your local craft store, and the local craft store also sells the professional grade paints. Like, for example, if you're buying a baby painted with Liquitex paints, you want to use, you want to get a baby that was used with heavy body or the soft body paints, not the, kind of student or basic paints, that they sell. Um, and, and there's also certain types of, so that's just something to be mindful of, because you don't want that to come off. These babies are meant to be, that if let's say you're painting a baby and it's not turning out the way you want, you can strip the kit and start over, and that's basically done with rubbing alcohol. So obviously, yeah, there are certain things that you want to keep away from your dolls. Like, you do not want them anywhere near any kind of alcohol, or I would just think any sort of harsh chemical things, liquids or wipes and things like that have chemicals. I would just be very wary of. So it's just something to keep in mind. But yes, you are able to use sealers. I use the Deco Art sealer. It's a matte sealer, but it leaves the baby with kind of a smooth finish. I use that on Gemma and Peter, the last two babies that I painted. So anyway, I would definitely ask questions about what kind of paint is being used, but I would think that any of the paints that are made for reborning, like Shea Air paints, which is what I use, or Baby FX, which is what Melissa uses. And by the way, Baby FX paints are discontinued. They're actually Melissa's paints that she produced herself, but just found it wasn't cost effective to keep selling them. So unfortunately, those ended up getting discontinued, because that was a bummer. But a lot of ladies in the forums absolutely love them. But I just have to say, guys, I'm a big fan of Melissa's babies, as you can tell. Like, I have Clara here, and Maddie, of course, the other baby that I bought from her. And I am also I also have a few other babies that she is working on for me. So I will have box opening videos to come, in the future. Anyway, but yeah, I just wanted to hop on and answer that question. I'm still just totally exhausted from our trip, and in less than a week we're leaving for kind of our big vacation. We're doing Vancouver and a Disney cruise, so to Alaska, which I am like really excited about. But anyway, so I will try to kind of pre-record some videos for you guys. I don't know if you guys really want to have 10 days of vlog videos like from our trip. That might not be super interesting, especially since my channel is really for my collecting. And I don't know whether I'll bring a baby or not. I haven't thought that far ahead. It would be fun, but we're also going with my in-laws, and they know that I paint, but I don't know if they'd feel that it's odd to bring a baby on the trip. They probably would think I had lost it. So anyway, we'll see. But anyhow, guys, I hope this answer was helpful. I don't think I'm an expert in the topic, so I would definitely encourage all of you guys to do your own research and, read up on the forums, read up on, the two forums I'm on are Dolphin and Bountiful Baby customer forum. So I'd read up on those forums, and yeah, I think that is that's the best you can do in terms of your own research. But yeah, it was so much. I just can't get over the doll show, guys. It was just so much fun. I'm enjoying actually watching video footage from some of the other YouTubers who were in attendance, and it's just fun to relive the show through someone else's eyes. So I am watching that, and I'm really touched by all the sweet comments you guys made on my show videos. I really appreciate it, because it was a ton of work to film and spot and edit, and there was one of the days I was like running out of memory, so I had to upload things in 5 parts. It was a lot of work, and a lot of nights staying up till like 1 or 2 in the morning, just like with my phone in the dark, like trying to upload things and waiting for uploads to complete before I went to bed. So anyway, I'm really, really glad that you guys appreciated it. I really loved watching show footage in the past when I couldn't go. And anyway, I just really, really enjoyed taking Clara and just feel so bonded to her. And I, was carrying her around, and, she, one of the reasons I didn't buy a baby was because, she, there wasn't a baby there that I liked more than her, I guess. So that definitely helped me to have a little bit of self-control. But yeah, she's just precious. I mean, there were a lot of Levi's at the show, I noticed. And oh, Lydia Torres Esposito, she's an artist I had not heard of before. She does really beautiful work. One of her babies, I think, won first place in the advanced category, and that baby wasn't for sale, but she had a Levi that was for sale that she was putting on for silent auction, and she ended up it was interesting that it was a beautiful Levi. It was actually one I was almost tempted to bid on, even though I have Clara, just because I thought he was so cute. He definitely looked like a boy. He had like dark brown hair, so I know he would have looked like really different from Clara. So I thought that was cool. So I was fairly tempted by that baby, but I didn't end up going for it because I just kind of felt like, well, I already have a Levi, and and the other baby that I saw was Eleanor. I got to see the prototype Eleanor by Andrea, who you guys saw. I did a video on, and I just loved that baby. So I got to see that baby in person, and guys, she is just stunning. Oh my gosh! So I anyway, I probably shouldn't announce this on the same video as this one, but I'll talk about it more in the future videos. But I decided, since I'd been so good about not bringing a baby home, although I will say I did spend a lot of money on kits and Susan's bags and other things, I did decide to go ahead and grab a spot on Eleanor Arcello's silicone list. So I am going to take advantage of the layaway option. I haven't really done layaway for my babies except for, kind of when I do customs, 50% down and 50% upon completion. Besides, I haven't really done layaway before, but like I talked about in that one video, I think it makes it feel more affordable and more attainable to be able to spread the payments out over a long period of time. And anyway, I'll talk more about Eleanor in another video. I really want to get you guys' opinion on one question that I have about her. So I will talk about that, on a new video in the future. But I hope that this was informative and helped to answer some questions. But yeah, I would not hesitate to buy a baby painted with air dry paints. I'm obviously a little bit biased because that's what I paint with, and I have noticed, and I have two babies by Melissa that are just amazing, and I'm in love with them both, but especially Clara. So yeah, I wouldn't hesitate. I really wouldn't. But yeah, I do think that sometimes people don't take air dry as seriously, or they don't think that they can get the baby to look as good with air dry paints, and that they're harder to use because they dry so quickly. And some of that, it might be true. I don't know. I haven't tried Genesis to be able to compare. I do know air dry is a little less forgiving because you need to work quickly. And so if you have an error, you need to keep going, and you need to work pretty quickly. So anyway, but yeah, just looking at Clara now, I just love this baby so much, you guys. And you guys probably saw they took such good care of her at the security, coming back. The guy was so awesome. He didn't even want to touch her because he knows how delicate and expensive these collectibles are, but he was so respectful, so nice. And then anyway, I just had so many experiences. I could probably talk for hours on it. Anyway, but I'll go ahead and wrap up this video, and hope you guys have a great evening, and I will see you on the next video.